I will start this lecture with explaining what is human resource management, what is human resource planning. So, human resource management, as we discussed, human resource management process consists of human resource planning, recruitment, selection, identify and select the competent employees, and orientation, training, further performance management and compensation for and career development to retain the efficient manpower in the organization. So, with this perspective we will be discussing human resource planning in more details. Human resource planning is the first step in the human resource management process. What is it? Human resource planning, why it is important? It's a process by which managers ensure that they have the right manpower, right number and capable people in the right place and at the right time. So, it helps organizations to avoid some sudden people shortages. There should not be a sudden surplus or shortage in the organization. HR planning entails two steps. One is assessing the current need of human resource and the second one is how to meet the future needs. What is current need? Say suppose there is one position which is vacant in the organization and that has to be filled. You do not have to wait for 1 month or 2 months to fill that position, because there would be a process delay. So, there should be adequate number of people in the organization who are ready to take up that position which is vacant, the position which is available or vacant in the organization. So, there should be ready individuals or individuals who should be ready to take that position. Then so this will lead to assessment of current human resource need. Meeting future needs. What is the future need? So, suppose a business organization intends to start or intends to initiate a new venture or a new develop a new product. So, for that the present manpower may not be adequate enough. There is a need for manpower who can efficiently, who can execute the new plans. So, suppose an organization extends or intends to expand to a different market, expands to a different or to start a venture which is new. So, in that case they need to recruit people. So, to meet the future human resource needs, there should be a proper planning. So, how human resource planning helps? HR planning is the process through which they can ensure that the right number of people are available who are competent enough to take the positions, to take the current needs of, to address to the current needs of human resources as well as the future manpower needs. Then human resource planning stage, there is assessing of current human resource. As we discussed, HR planning begins by taking inventory of the current employees. What is the inventory of current employees? In any organization, if there is a vacancy or there is a sudden emergence of a vacant position, there has to be the ready employees within the organization. So, HR planning will begin by taking that inventory of current employees which can fill the positions which are emerging or there is a or which are available in the organization, or there is a sudden need for filling the vacant position in the organization. Inventory usually includes information of employees such as the name of the employee, education, level of experience or training, prior employment, specialized skills and competencies required. So, an important part of current assessment is job analysis, which is otherwise called an assessment to determine the duties of specific job and characteristics of people who should be hired to do them. So, job analysis will help to know what is the specific characteristics required job for a particular nature of the job, the persons, what are the skills and competencies of individuals required for that particular positions. So, interview, questionnaire method, observation, participants, diary, logs and internet, these are the common methods for collecting job analysis related information. So, what we discussed is assessing current human resource needs is important part of human resource planning, which will give us an inventory of the current human resource or the current employees, and this inventory will include information of employees such as time, name, education, the prior employment experience, specialized skills and capabilities, and an important part of which is job analysis, that is assessment that requires that determines the duties, the job specification or the duties of specific job, and the characteristics of people who should be hired to do them. Interview, questionnaire method, observation, participation, maintaining diary, logs and internet are common methods for collecting job analysis related information. Next, we will discuss about the traditional versus competency based job analysis. What is the traditional method and what is the competency based analysis? Traditional method or traditional analysis is more centered on the job. Competency based analysis is more specific to the worker centered or employee centered aspect. Competencies are not the skills, but competencies are demonstrable characteristics of a person that enables performance. So, what is a job competency? Job competency is observable and measurable knowledge, skills, attitude, behavior which are required for performing a job, which is required for. So, there is the traditional analysis says that as per the job, the analysis or traditional analysis is more centered on the nature of the job, and competency based analysis, job analysis is more centered on the requirement of employees or worker centered. Next, we will discuss about how to obtain the job analysis required related information. Job analysis information can be obtained by to greet participants and conduct brief introductions, briefly explain job analysis process and the participants' role in the process. What is their role, what they are supposed to do. So, spend about 15 minutes determining the scope of the job you are about to analyze by getting agreement on the job's basic summary. Next is identify the job's broad functional or duty areas. What is the functional requirement of the job, such as administrative job, supervisory job or say strategic job. So, what is the nature of the job and what are the competencies required. So, based on that a job can be analyzed. Identify tasks. What are the tasks within each duty area, within each job that is required using a flip chart or collaboration software. Print the task list and get the group to sign on it. A sample of job analysis form, employee job analysis template. So, we will have the name of employee, the primary details and then what is his position, job position, then phone number and other necessary details. The position summary like the task which the person is doing and what is the nature of the job, his requirements for the job which is otherwise called job specification, and duties and responsibilities assigned to the individual for carrying out that task is also very important. The people whom he or she would be reporting, that is internal contact and external contact, then knowledge level required for completing the task, the experience which is required for the task, what type of problem he or she has to solve, leadership ability, whether the person has leadership ability or not, the impact of the person on the company's or organizational performance or mission and so on, and with the lastly it has to be signed by the person. So, it is a simple job analysis form. Then next is after obtaining this information of job analysis, managers develop job specification and job description. So, what we understood now, in human resource planning process which is otherwise forecasting the human resource needs in the organization, either for the present position or for the future needs, job analysis is very important. Job analysis means analyzing or describing the nature of the job and specifying what are the characteristics required to accomplish the task in the in a specific position. So, after obtaining this information from job analysis, managers develop clearly what is description of the job and specification of the job. A job description, we will learn about what are these two concepts. A job description is a written statement that describes nature of the job. Typically, job content, the environment and conditions of a job, what is the nature of job, what is the job condition, how what is the environment where the person would be working. So, all these are describing the nature of the job. If a marketing manager or customer relationship manager takes a position, so the nature of the job has to be described so that the person can understand his duties. So, describing typically the job content, what is the job of a marketing manager, what is the job of a human resource manager, what is the job of a customer relationship manager need to be conveyed to the individual so that he knows the content of the job, his environment, whether he has to sit on a desk and attend to the queries or he has to do a market research, he has to go to the say he has to go and say reach the customers. So, how does he have greet the customers? So, all these are part of the job requirement or job descriptions and conditions of the job, like what is the specific condition, whether he would be working in a mines, whether he would be working in a factory, what is the nature of the job, what is the timing required for the job. So, all this comes under the job description. Next, moving on to the job specification, states the minimum qualification. Job specification specifies what characteristics, what competencies are required of the individual, what qualification is adequate for a person to carry out a task. So, minimum qualification that a person must possess to successfully perform a given job, it determines the knowledge, skills, attitude needed to do the job effectively. There are certain parts of a job description, I will discuss each one of them in more details. Job identification, that is section of a job identification section is the job title. What is job identification? Job identification section is the job title. When next is job summary, it describes the general nature, that is major functions and activities of the job. Relationship statement may show the job holder's relationship with others inside and outside the organizations. How does he or she responds to the people in relationship, that is with insiders, with other employees and with outsiders outside the organization. Responsibilities and duties, the present certain job responsibilities and duties present a detailed list of the responsibilities and duties of the individuals. Then what is the authority? Authority defines the limits of the job holder's authority, that is may approve certain purchases up to say up to a certain limit, which can say what is the authority or power of the individual that limits the like whether he can grant leave or he can sanction leave or so on, whether he can sanction money. So, what is the authority? The authority determines the limits of the job holder's authority. Standards of performance list the standard the employee is to achieve in each of the job, the standard which is expected by individual to perform. Working conditions and physical environment lists the general working conditions of the job. A sample job description and job specification consist of the job title, that is with say whether a person is a sales representative, what is the recommended salary, what is the job family, what is the nature of the job family, whether in sales or whether in say a desk job, administrative job, division, what is his education, what is his department, then what job code, what is the job code, and whether what is the status, then sales, whether what location and the date. So, gives a brief picture of the job or the description of the job. Next, we discuss about the specification or the qualification. So, what is the qualification of the individual, whether he is supposed to. So, summary of the job will give the description of the job, and required knowledge and experience which will give the specification of the job, knowledge and experience which is required, what is the formal education or skills required, then primary job responsibilities, what are the responsibilities, whether he should achieve quantitative sales goal or conduct 15 to 20 interviews, whether conduct personal product presentations, employ telephone selling techniques and strategies, close class tests, negotiate custom publishing and specialized packaging, and so on. So, develop and implement in temporary promotional campaigns, what would be the sales goal achieved by the individual, plan and execute temporary special selling events, and so on. What are the decision making responsibilities for this position associated, what is so all this will be describing about the specification of the job, how to meet the future human resource needs. Now, we will discuss about future HR needs are determined by organizational goals, mission and strategies. What is organizational goal? Whether the organization has a short or long term goal. In a long term goal, it would be, say, suppose a 10 years plan. What is the like what the firm intends to do, expand or grow or stability. So, what is the long term goal of the organization? If it expands, what is the way through which it will expand? Will it have a strategic alliance? Will it have, it will grow by developing the, say, by expanding its the primary line of business, expansion through diversification, product diversification, or vertical integration. So, the firm has to decide what is the goal of the organization if it has to meet the future manpower needs, meeting future human resource needs. So, the future HR needs are determined by organizational goals, organizational mission and its strategies. Say, if the organization strategy is cost minimization or quality consciousness, or if it intends to be innovative. So, how does the firm meet what type of manpower need is to be, what type of human resource need or human resource to be hired should be decided by the organization. Demand for employee results from demand for the organizational products and services. Then future HR needs can be identified through the trend analysis, ratio analysis, scatter plot analysis. We discussed about the demand forecasting, we discussed about the forecasting technique. So, future HR needs or manpower needs can also be identified through analyzing the trends. What is trend analysis? Identifying the historical data or the past data within the company to help predict what is the future manpower need. Say, suppose if in the previous 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we can see what was the need of the organization, what was the manpower need. So, we can predict through trend analysis the future manpower need. Ratio analysis is another method which will help in forecasting data based on ratio between casual factors and the number of employees required. Then coming to the next point, that is scatter plot. So, which also shows graphically how two variables such as sales and staffing levels are related, or any two variables can be related. So, scatter plot also can give you an inference of the need for manpower in future. So, with this we have discussed about human resource planning, and we discussed about job analysis, job description and job specification. Then further we also discussed about how internal manpower needs can be met and what are the measures or techniques used for meeting external manpower need, or the meeting the future manpower needs. There are three techniques that we discussed: trend analysis, analyzing the historical trends and within the company to predict future needs. The second one we discussed is ratio analysis, forecast data based on ratio between causal factors and the number of employees required. The third point that we discussed is the scatter plot, show graphically how two variables such as sales or staffing levels can be linked and how they are related. So, this will also give us a kind of inference about how to fill the vacant positions, how future HR needs can be identified. Moving on to the next topic, that is recruitment. What is recruitment? Calling for vacant positions is called recruitment. Recruitment is also an important process in human resource management, which is after assessing the current capabilities and future needs, managers can estimate areas in which the organization will understand or will be overstaffed or understaffed. So, after assessing current capabilities and future needs, managers can estimate areas in which the organization will be understaffed or overstaffed. The next step involves recruitment. Recruitment is the process of locating, identifying and attracting capable applicants or talents in the organization. Recruitment can be done through internal candidates or through external sources of candidates. So, there can be both internal and external sources of manpower available for recruitment. What are the internal sources of candidates? Requires using job postings, rehiring and promotion from within. Employee referral can also be used. Job postings are announcements on companies' bulletin boards or websites that list positions, their attributes. Their postings list the job attributes like qualification, supervisor, work schedule and pay rate. Then rehiring former employees is another source of recruitment. It is beneficial as they are already familiar with the company and how things to be done. Promotions from within, it is common for employees who started at the entry level and then promoted to senior positions. Then external sources of candidates, internal recruitments can backfire at times and it can lead to inbreeding and slow down the process of developing new perspectives. So, external recruitment is attempted only if internal talent is not available. Internal employee referrals, internet, company website, college recruiting and professional recruiting agencies are some of the sources of external recruitment. External user friendly company websites can also be used as an efficient recruiting tool. It is one of the methods of external recruitment via internet. Potential employees are able to easily access and view current openings from the home page. Pre-employment screening assessment are kept simple. Users are allowed to apply online as well as via fax or emails if they prefer and register for updates. Then what are the pros and cons of internet recruiting? Certain advantages are free or low cost, let us discuss about the internet recruiting advantages and disadvantages. Advantages are, there is a low cost or it is free, longer lifespan than traditional mediums. Internet recruiting is also fast, can start receiving applications immediately. Nowadays, most of the companies have gone for recruiting through internet. Disadvantages are too much of response, there would be information overload, legal pitfalls regarding unintended discrimination, and equal employment opportunity compliance is difficult to prove. Then we will also discuss about how advertisements can also generate a pool, or a recruitment pool can be generated through advertising. Select the best medium for the specific position, that is local newspaper versus trade journal. Experienced advertisers construct ads based on 4-point guide labeled awareness, interest, desire and action. Next is, we will discuss about recruiting with employment agencies. Employment agencies are useful if your firm does not have an HR department and has been found generating an applicant pool which is difficult in the past or must fill an opening quickly. When the firm wants to attract a minority group or female candidates, wants to reach employed individuals who might be more comfortable dealing with an agency than a competitor. College recruiting and interns. College recruitment and internship is also a method of generating a pool of ready candidates. College recruiting efforts can be problematic, can be expensive and time consuming. Recruiters are sometimes ineffective due to being unprepared, showing little interest in candidates or acting superior. Internships are growing in popularity, allows employers to try out a candidate, allows students to hone business skills. So, internship in a way, when students are in their final year or students are in their pre-final year, they take up internship to get a professional kind of learning. By getting a position in any established firm or in any organization, they want to get a practical experience, understand the working environment. So, these are various ways through which we have discussed about the recruitment. So, what we discussed in this section, we discussed about human resource planning, we discussed about what is human resource planning, why there is a need for human resource planning, forecasting the future vacancies in the organization. Then we also came across the term called job analysis, job description and specification, and job description describes the job and job specification gives a view of the characteristics which are required or competencies, level of competencies and specifications required by an individual to perform a particular task. And then we are discussing about what is recruitment, what are the various types of sources of recruitment, internal and external sources of recruitment. Then we discussed about job posting, rehiring, promotion from within, internal sources of recruitment. And then we discussed about the external sources of recruitment, like external recruitment through company employee referrals, internet, company website. We discussed about each of the methods of recruitment, like external sources of recruitment, internet, then the advantages and disadvantages of recruitment through internet. And then we also covered advertisement as a recruiting tool and recruiting with employment agencies, college recruitment and interns. So, with this I would like to conclude this session, and in the next section we will discuss about selection and the selection techniques. Thank you.